President Biden turning his back on Israel to appease the far left at the most critical moment of the hostage negotiations. 11 more captives have been released by Hamas and are now back in Israeli territory. Temporary ceasefire deal between Israel and the terror group getting extended for 2 more days. The White House says Hamas is committed to releasing another 20 women and children over the next 2 days, but so far, only 1 American has been released. Jeff Paul is live in Tel Aviv with more. Jeff.
Yeah, Jesse, we just got word that this latest group of hostages released by Hamas, they're on their way right now to Israeli hospitals to get treatment and get checked out. And like the days before these happened, we saw some delays today, just like a few days ago. And that really just speaks to how fragile these negotiations and this deal is between Israel and Hamas. Now, here's what we know about this latest group. It's 2 mothers and 9 children, the youngest kids being just 3 years old. We're also learning that all of those kids left their dads behind inside Gaza, where they're still being held by Hamas. Now, the day before, 14 Israelis made that same journey where they joined 26 other Israelis released in previous days. They're all now in some sort of stage of treatment after spending roughly 7 weeks, likely exclusively in the darkness of Hamas tunnels. However, there are still well more than 100 hostages being held by Hamas. Now, we could see more being freed over the next 2 days as Qatari officials broke the news a little earlier today that they are extending that temporary truce. Israel had previously said they would extend the pause in fighting by 1 day for every 10 additional hostages released. But keep in mind, once Hamas stops releasing those hostages, Israeli forces will likely resume their combat operations in Gaza to both eliminate Hamas and also get the remaining hostages out.
We want to receive another additional 50 hostages beyond tonight on our way to bringing everyone home. And as soon as that framework expires, Israel will continue with full force towards those 3 objectives: eliminating Hamas, making sure the Gaza Strip can never be a security threat to Israel, and releasing all the hostages.
Now, as we saw in previous days, more aid trucks made their way into Gaza to help the civilians there. And we're also hearing that more Palestinian prisoners, a group of more than 30, will be released just like in the previous days. Jesse?
Jeff, thanks so much. And so far, only 1 American hostage has been released. Kirby getting pressed on that by Martha. Listen.
We're very excited, and the president was personally involved in getting this extension, so 20 more hostages over the next 2 days. This process is working, so we're going to keep putting our energies and efforts into that.
But, John, was there any promise, when the president spoke to the prime minister in Qatar, was there any promise that in this next 48-hour period we're going to see these 8 to 9 Americans?
I'm not going to get into diplomatic conversations, Martha. I would just tell you that we've made it plain and clear that we want to see our American hostages home with their families. We're glad that this thing got extended for a couple of days.
And as the lives of Americans hang in the balance, Joe Biden's going back on his promise to fully support Israel. The president secretly apologizing to a group of Muslim Americans for casting excessive skepticism over the number of Palestinian deaths released by the Hamas-run Ministry of Health. Instead of playing straight with them and explaining why you can't trust the terrorists, Biden telling them, and I quote, "I'm sorry, I'm disappointed in myself." Judge Janine, what do you think the president's calculation is in saying that behind the scenes to the Muslim community?
Well, it's to me, it appears that he's moving left. He knows the numbers right now are not good for him. 2 months ago, in an NBC poll, he was at 46% in September. Today, he's at 31% among those ages 18 to 34. So he's dropped 15 points among that group in the last 2 months. But I think more than that, he is trying to move left to satisfy those people in the party, the progressives. And I think that the craziest part of it is this is the one time he was telling the truth, and now he's going back on it, saying, I'm sorry, I really said that. But I think the biggest part of all of this, besides the politics, and it's almost as though you're seeing a movie. I mean, I feel like I'm watching a movie now with the Palestinians, are sending our hostages over, and any second someone's going to get a call and say, turn around. But the craziest part of this is that now we have had, I guess it's 74 attacks against American military in 7 weeks. with well over 60 of our servicemen injured, shrapnel, traumatic brain injury. They can be lifelong injuries. And you got John Kirby saying today, this afternoon, he says, we've sent them a strong message. He has not sent a strong message. America has basically said, you in Iraq and Syria and your proxies can hit our soldiers whenever you want. We're not going to respond, although I think we did. We blew up a garage or something. And now, on Thursday, they apparently sent an intercontinental ballistic missile. And we're not responding to this. So the first American soldier who dies as a result of these proxies funded by Iran, the blood is going to be on the hands of Joe Biden because he is not taking this seriously enough. And when people like Joe Scarborough come out and say, thank God we've got Joe Biden, otherwise we'd be in a world war, you know, they're not understanding that in truth, you know, unless we start blowing up bridges in Iran, we're going to start getting hit ourselves.
And so, Dana, just one American hostage released so far.
I mean, I would be screaming bloody murder and say, like, I'm not resting until the Americans are home. And you're not resting until the Americans come home. Like, no one involved in this should have a good night's sleep until the Americans are home. And we have ways to do that and power. And I understand all the little nuances and everything, and it's complicated, et cetera. But also then even on the home front, this Washington Post story that had 27 sources, a lot of them anonymous, about this meeting that Joe Biden had at the White House that included a lot of Muslim leaders as well as staff. And they come to him and they say that they're upset because he said on October 7th at a press conference, he said, I have no notion that the Palestinians are telling the truth about how many people are killed. So they want him to retract that. And he says to them, I'm sorry, I'm disappointed in myself for what I said. Excuse me? First of all, why would you think that, Mr. President? Why would you think that the Gazan Health Ministry would not be telling the truth? Were they telling the truth about the fact that their headquarters are underneath the hospital where the hostages were being held? So he has this meeting, and instead of explaining to them his decision-making process, he says, I'm sorry. And look, we don't know all about the meeting because it was clearly leaked by the people that were in there. For the staffers that are in there complaining, guess what? You don't have to work there. And you work at the pleasure of the president. And if I were them, I would say, here's my position. Here's how I got to it. I hear you. Thank you. I respect your opinion. Here's mine. And then if you're a staffer and you're so upset about it, then you should leave. You have also the media protecting all of these staffers, 200 congressional staffers and 400 administration staffers. They don't release their names. You think that would happen in a Trump administration? Of course not. The media would be all over that and making sure that they do it. And it's just like these people, they're the ones who said, hey, we're okay with higher gas prices if you get something for the climate movement. You know, hey, it's okay to ban, even if it's unconstitutional, no problem. Oh, guess what? We'll do the same thing for student loans. There's like a 10 to 20% of the American public that is pulling the president to the left, and he's at risk of losing everybody else. But at most, he's at risk of losing the principle that he has confidently been keeping since October 7th. And I think that the Israelis are concerned about it as much as they need him.
Greg?
Yeah, I think he just does what he's told. It was interesting that he never, ever apologized about the Border Patrol agents that he unfairly maligned, but that's because he wasn't told to. But, I mean, I'll tell you how I feel about the hostage release, but my feelings, I have to preface, mean nothing compared to the families. I can imagine the joy they feel seeing their family members come back, and that's a wonderful thing. But having said that, for me, I feel successfully manipulated. You know, Hamas kidnapped innocent people for this precise process to unfold. Basically, they robbed a human bank to get human currency, to hit the casino, they got the chips, and now we're playing by their rules. So I feel joy for the families, but I also feel like Hamas has they've really played this thing well, especially when you hear that the captors treated the captives well. That's part of the process. But to treat the captives well, first you had to capture them. And in the process of capturing them, you brutally killed and raped hundreds of innocent people. So I think you can't let these stories and you can't let this process manipulate the core truth, the cause and effect behind this. Because I think right now we're in the rationalizing phase. We're rationalizing what's going on. Okay, we're going to get this. And we forget what began this. It's not the context of history. It's It started October 7th. You had the Sky News reporter, this was hilarious, accused Israel of racism for getting 50 hostages in exchange for 50 Palestinian prisoners because, Israel wouldn't want 150 hostages because they don't believe that it's one-on-one. You idiot.
Yes.
You idiot. Wow. Hamas is calling the shots here. Do you think Israel would want more? They would want one-to-one. But this has always been the case. That just shows you how effed up the media is on this. And it's incredible. Anyway, that's my feeling.
Yeah, everyone's now talking about Hamas releasing hostages. And 3 weeks ago, we were talking about Hamas slaughtering men, women, and children.
So good to be back around the table. Hope everyone had a great holiday. I don't think that anyone suggesting, first, I agree with you. Any staffer in the White House who disagrees with policy in the White House has every right to. They should quit.
Yeah. Or they can just do their job and accept that the president is the president of the United States and yes, sir, Mr. President.
Or they should quit
forward.
if they disagree with what the president. They have every right to. But I wouldn't have met with anybody if I was the president of the United States with staffers who disagree with me. I'd say show the papers at the door. Number two, I give the president a lot of credit. But although they said what they want to say about him and what they're thinking about him and leaked something from the meeting, I can only tell you what the president's publicly doing. One, we have two of the most highly sophisticated and highly equipped military assets in that region today. Number two, the Israelis, and it's giving the Israelis the protection to do what they're doing. Greg, I agree with you. October 7th, we cannot lose that as a sight of what we're doing and why we're doing. But we have to understand that if you're a national security advisor or you're on that team in the White House or at the State Department, you have to think about some of these things as you think about what happens when we win, because we will win. For those who are active in our country and those who are advocating on behalf of Palestinians, you have every right to. In fact, I join you in wanting a two-state solution. But if you believe so strongly in that position, you should understand that if Hamas would release all the soldiers, the killing in Gaza and the West Bank would stop. Because so many would ask Israel to let's now reframe and reset and regroup how we go about trying to find a solution. If you're blaming Israel or the United States for Palestinian deaths after what's happened over the last few days, the ceasefire came about because Hamas decided to release soldiers. From the outset, President Netanyahu, I don't agree with all the time and still have my issues with, but I agree with him here. He said we have to recover hostages and degrade Hamas. We are degrading Hamas, and we're getting hostages released. If we want the killing to stop in the West Bank, if we want the killing to stop in Gaza, release all of the hostages, and then we can have a reasonable, serious conversation. But I would say to the president where Dana started, I wouldn't waste my time entertaining the ideas and thoughts of some of my staff who are against my ideas and against our proposal and against our positions. Let them quit. They have every right to. We live in a free country. But you shouldn't be wasting your time if that's the position of the country. Keep doing what you're doing. We're gaining progress. We're making progress.
You're saying that would not happen in a Ford administration?
The last thing that would happen.
Okay.
See, Harold's got to run.
Coming up.
Harold, not Gerald.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.